Hello, my name is John Mannion, and I'm the curator of the Call Wildflower Garden for the Friends of Birmingham Botanical Gardens. I'm standing here in the Hugh and Bobby Call Wildflower Garden at Birmingham Botanical Gardens. This is a 7-acre piece of property, a garden that holds the largest documented collection of native plants in the state of Alabama. Today I'd like to speak with you about some very special plants. This plant that I have in my hand is mountain mint, and it's found over much of the southeastern United States. Mountain mint is Pycnanthemum muticum, from the Greek word pycnos, meaning clustered or dense. What that's referring to is this little cluster of flowers here at the top. When you look at it and you see all this bright frosted look, those are leaves or bracts, modified leaves that surround the flowers. The pollinators love this plant. It's not unusual to see several of them swarming around it. A little bit later in the summer, you can drive down the road and see huge swaths of this on the side of the road. For anyone that wants to attract pollinators, this is a wonderful plant. It's got a lovely fragrance and can be used for edible purposes, for cooking, for making drinks, and we're very lucky to have it. It spreads nicely, but not as vigorously as some of the mints that we know. This is a wonderful plant, and we have about 4 different species of Pycnanthemum mountain mint here in the Call Wildflower Garden. Here's another lovely plant that I'd like to tell you about. This plant makes such a good garden plant that it was awarded the Royal Horticultural Society's Plant of Merit. It has a very wide distribution. We're talking about pickerel weed, Pontederia cordata, and it's considered an emergent aquatic plant, meaning you're not going to find it out in the middle of a lake, but in areas around the edge of ponds and lakes. Very easy to grow, very colorful, as you can see here, and this one's only about 1/3 of the way open. This will be quite a bit larger and brilliant bluish purple, very eye-catching, and one of the great things about it is that it flowers all summer long, unlike most perennial plants. The leaf is also quite attractive, and the leaf has different morphology, different shapes from population to population, which I find interesting too. Another very interesting plant that I'd like to speak about, and perhaps one of the most charismatic of all our native flora, very popular and has what I refer to almost as a cult following. I know 15-year-olds that know more about this species than I'll ever know, and I sometimes call it the entry plant that gets young people into the plant world, that and orchids. This is Sarracenia, and there are several species. We're very fortunate that here in the southeast, we have more species of Sarracenia, pitcher plants is their common name, than anywhere else in the world. I think we're up to 8 or 9 species, plus a lot of subspecies and several hybrids. These hybrid easily, and collectors will actually do hybridizing to come up with different color forms and shape forms. What's fascinating about this is that it's carnivorous, meaning it eats insects and other forms of meat. Usually insects mostly, but they found things such as moths in there. They have found small frogs in there. They even found a small mouse in one. The mechanism by which this works, first of all, I should say that the theory is that thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, this was a flat leaf, and over time it curled around to form this tube. The reason for that is that these plants normally grow in very nutrient-poor soil, bogs, where it's primarily peat moss usually, and a mix of sand. Because it's so nutrient-poor, this plant evolved this mechanism to get their nutrition in another way than from the soil. Therefore, they evolved with this mechanism to catch insects to get their nitrogen. What happens is that This lip right here has what's called extrafloral nectaries, meaning flowers are where nectar is usually produced in most plants. On this species, first of all, this is not the flower, this is the leaf. Here's the flower. But here on the leaf, the upper edge has nectar glands. Even though this is not a flower, there's even a few on the upper lid. That attracts insects to the plant. There's a little bit of wax lining inside. Sometimes they will slip into the tube, and there's a liquid in the bottom that's a combination of water and enzymes that will digest the insect. The inside of the tube is also lined with downward facing small hairs, which makes it even more difficult to climb back out.